Now, southern governors have not only banned open grazing in the region, they have also asked the President Muhammadu Buhari to urgently convoke a national dialogue. But this development has been kicked against by the North. Their argument is that the southern governors did not consult Fulani leaders before arriving at the decision. Arise correspondent Jemima Boloko reports.
The rising insecurity across Nigeria and calls by groups, especially in the south, for a division of the country has got the 17 southern governors meeting in Asaba, the Delta State capital. The governors, after deliberating on topical issues facing the country, resolved that Nigeria remains indivisible while restating their ban on open grazing by herdsmen to reduce insecurity.
Consequently, the meeting resolved that open grazing of cattle be banned across southern Nigeria. 3. The meeting noted that development and population growth has put pressure on available land and increased the prospect of conflict between migrant herders and local population in the south. Given this scenario, it becomes imperative to enforce the ban on open grazing in the south, including cattle movement to south by foot. The meeting recommended that the federal government should support willing states to develop alternative and modern livestock management system.
The Southwest, the South-South and the Southeast governors also resolved that the country's progress requires that urgent and bold steps be taken to immediately restructure the Nigerian Federation to allow for the state police and a review of the revenue allocation formula in favor of states among the evolution of other powers.
That the progress of the nation requires that urgent and bold steps be taken to restructure the Nigerian Federation, leading to the evolution of state police, review of revenue formula in favor of subnationals, and creation of other institutions which legitimately advance our commitment to and practice of true federalism. The meeting recommended that in view of the widespread agitation among our various peoples for greater inclusiveness in existing governance arrangement, the federal government should convoke a national dialogue as a matter of urgency.
The Southern Governors meeting also expressed concern over the economic implication of another COVID-19 lockdown on the country, while suggesting greater coordination and cooperation between states and the federal government to deal with the pandemic. Jemima Boloko, Arise News, Delta.
Well, for our analysis, let's turn to Arise analyst, Dr. Sam Amadi, for more on this. Amadi, Sam, glad to have you, Dr. Sam. Fine, let's start this way. Do you think that the governors took into consideration the wider implications of their policy, especially when you consider that they have even refused to grant autonomy to the judiciary?
Well, I think it sounds like since you are a sinner, don't condemn sin. So basically, yeah, the governors are not perfect. They need to do a lot. But how does that matter for this policy? What I think is the implications of this policy could be multidimensional. For example, so some of the headers, I mean, you're talking about a large population of animal husbanders. Okay, you need to either logistics of moving them. So if you ban open grazing, it means that in the short to medium term, there are going to be mitigating factors. There will be certain measures put in place to cause relocation. You have to plan out the implication in terms of security, in terms of movement, in terms of economic well-being. So I think there should be some kind of Marshall Plan around this policy. So that's one of the structural difficulties. How do you begin to operationalize it in a manner that will not create excess conflicts, tension, dislocation? These headers are mostly Nigerians, I would assume, minus the foreigners. So there's also obligation for their well-being. So what I see is the next phase should be moving from policy announcement to structuring. So first, you have to get the laws passed. Some governors have said they're going ahead. People like Wiki have said we're on it. Then you have to map out. You see, the problem with Nigerian governance is that there's no rigor around planning. So now you should be thinking about what are we dealing with? What's the population of headers in my state? Who are these headers? And by the way, even banning or no banning, there should be proper documentation of all forms of trading. Heading of animal is a trade. So you should be able to know what was the rough population, where are they? So what will it take to, if you say it's banned, how do you really want to enforce it? How do you want to deal with it? So these are the things they should be doing now. And at the level of federal government, not enough to attack the governors. What they should have been doing by now with Attorney General and the economic team is to map out certain guidelines. You know, federal government can come out with, look, any policy on banning headers shouldn't do this. It should not profile people. It shouldn't limit the rights of Nigerians. So there should be people should put in things on paper to guide this process, because invariably, both the northern governors say heading is, cattle rearing, open grazing is not sustainable. So the question now is, who is putting down structure, policy, guideline, framework to get this done in a manner that causes the least dislocation to economic and security issues?
It's definitely more than just saying we're going to ban open grazing. There has to be some sort of procedure. What are you going to do? And now yesterday, Governor Okowa was pushing back on the anti-restructuring comments made by the Senate President Ahmed Lawan. What's your stance on his opinion and also the opinion of the Speaker of the House?
I think basically the issue around restructuring by now should be very elementary, that really you have to. By the way, the RFI committee, which is an APC government committee, has also asked for restructuring, laid out devolution, the sort of things they're talking about. State police, the RFI committee talked about it. So these are no longer, I think there's a growing national consensus around those issues. The question now is, how do you trigger it? It has to go to the National Assembly because these are constitutional issues. And what we are seeing is that the Senate President particularly has not been leading in helping some of this. For example, Electoral Act stuck because he's not going to schedule it for discussion. So we're going to see filibustering. We're going to see stonewalling.
That's why
and that will further ignite the agitation and will compound security, because essentially we need to be moving forward on these issues.
Are our leaders, both the governors and those who are against this, are they checking the kind of statements they make? I said this to ask you this question. When Governor Wike says the resolutions like restructuring are irrevocable, has he thought about the fact that he will need both the House and the Senate? Of course, the President of the Senate and Bajabamila House Speaker have said, restructure your states first. So has he thought about the fact it has to go through the law?
I think what we are saying is a sense of lawlessness. I mean, it's writ large. Okay, if the Senate President gatekeepers are so self-opinionated that they don't want to listen to what seems to be, I mean, if the certain governors come with a resolution, the least you can give it is respect and consideration. So you can see lawlessness. Okay, let them come and get it done. Now, the other people on the other side also should have to show recognition of the fact that this needs a process. So what we see in Nigeria is that the elite consensus that you need to move forward away from this conflict is not existing. People are digging deep on their own advantage. So we control the numbers. So we're going to come. And so this is feeding into the agitators for self-determination. And so when Nigerians say we don't want a united country, we don't want division, and they are fueling the division, because the idea of political process, democracy, is that it helps to deal with this kind of agitation. So first, elections are important. You vote out those who stand on the way of reform. Through constitutional conference, dialogue, you capture the views that democracy can't capture, because there's a democracy deficit. If you say, okay, go and elect to 2023 will not resolve these much more overarching issues. So through a dialogue, through this kind of conference, you rewrite and re-energize their institutions to carry on with democratic
Now, you've brought, before Nkechi comes, you have brought the question of dialogue. Yeah. They're asking the president to convoke a dialogue, and they're saying it's irrevocable. And Okowa is saying that whoever is against the stance of the southern governors do not mean well for Nigeria. Doesn't that show intolerance on his part and then talk about the fact of convoking a dialogue. It has, I mean, how do you get it done if you're going to be harsh in your language or, I don't know, belligerent?
Yes, I agree with you. See, but if I was advising the Southern governor, what they should do now is to build on this consensus by organizing dialogue themselves. You see, nothing says the president has to organize a dialogue. If certain governors convoke a dialogue, get their non-northern groups to participate, it snowballs. You see, the point that the president said the federal government has lost the plot. The states should take over, and that's what I'm going to advocate, that at this point, we need governance. If the government is not ready, nothing in the law stops it from organizing themselves. Nothing says the certain governors can call a conference, invite even northern governors, invite northern political leaders. It's informal conversation. Look at the way that this small meeting at Asaba helped to kind of reshape the structure, the discussions. People are no longer talking about warfare. They're not saying, oh, there's something on the table, ban open grazing, restructuring, dialogue. They're not looking at whether it's going to work, but there's hope. And that hope has to contain violence. So what I think is certain governors people should see themselves as now leaders. Don't wait for the president. Let them take over leadership, propose that dialogue, set up a structure. Let's converse among ourselves. Let's talk with our northern brother. Let's talk with the state government. Let's talk with institutions, no governmental. We shouldn't wait for the president because look, this time calls for leadership, and unfortunately, the federal government is not leading, and National Assembly is stalling. So what do? Take leadership. The states have the capacity to do. In fact, the constitutional restraint I said before is exaggerated. State government assemblies have so much power to change the dynamics. Even the insecurity you're talking about, the laws that the police operate as state laws. If you pass a law today, the IG is bound to implement it. The police does not create its own law. The police is a federal entity, but they operate state laws. So what stops the state assemblies from making laws that the police will use in managing? If you pass any law today, the police ought to execute them. If they don't, then we are verging on lawlessness.
So from what you're saying, you're also indicting the governors.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You're saying that they should take charge, and even the Senate president said it. He said they should focus very, very well on restructuring their state before coming to the federal government. Do you agree with that?
No, I think it's cynical.
Aline Dume also added that they should stop the blame game. He faltered the stance on open grazing in the south. He's asking the governors, along with Nkechi's question.
What they are saying is what the governors are doing. In the past, the governors were sleeping on the wheel. That's my view. I've said it, I've written that the governors have all the power to do what they ought to do. Now they have started doing it. You're telling them, you've been cynical. So, first structure, what do you do to structure? Yes, there are states where zones are fighting for who should be governor. Okay?
I don't know that the governors have implemented the local government autonomy. Have they?
Look at the point I made.
Have they?
When trees fall on trees, you remove the top one. The most important issue now is for Nigeria to survive.
People will speak from their side.
No, the critical issues for survival today is to create a sense of justice. Let's start from the head down. Of course, people are fighting locally. But the point I make is that it's cynical to say, oh, you guys, wake up. And they said, now we're ready to work. You say, oh, don't touch open grazing. Oh, don't touch restructuring.
Well,
that's a cynical way to
That's the only time we have. Thank you so much. That's a good place to stop.